Welcome to How I Rent It, the podcast where we pull back the curtain on the tent rental industry. I'm Tony Ehrbar, the owner of American Tent, one of the leading event tent manufacturers in the U.S. As someone who got started in the event rental industry over 10 years ago, I'm excited to bring you the stories behind the people who keep events running smoothly. Was watching an episode of Shark Tank one night, had a couple of beers, and went on Craigslist, and in Green Bay was a tent rental business.
At the end of the day, failure was not an option. I'm going to do this.
Is this your first time on a podcast?
It is my first time on one, listening to one, seeing one. Yes, sir.
Each episode, we'll talk to inspiring event rental business owners to learn how they got started, the challenges they've faced, and their secrets to success. Whether you're dreaming of starting your own rental business or just love hearing great entrepreneurial stories with plenty of intent puns thrown in, this podcast is for you. Stephen has been through the rental industry for over 15 years.
And I was born under a tent.
This is the part where we're going to get into where we're going to have like VP of HR come in and just like okay the questions and answers. What does Ricky Bobby say? If you ain't first, you're last.
That's it. Absolutely.
So grab your coffee, your notebook, or just sit back and relax with a box of popcorn. Subscribe now on Spotify, Apple, or Google Podcasts, and join me as we uncover the journey behind the tent rental industry and how I rent it. Welcome back to How I Rent It, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the tent rental industry, where we share valuable insights, success stories, and lessons from entrepreneurs who built their rental businesses from the ground up. I'm your host, Tony Ehrbar, the owner and CEO of American Tent. And today I'm excited to welcome our next guest, Darren Randle from Houston Tents and Events. Darren has been in the industry for 6 years and has grown his company into one of the most trusted names in the Houston market. Today we'll be talking about his journey, diving into how he got started and what he's learned along the way and what's next for his business. If you're looking for insights on overcoming challenges, scaling your rental business, or simply learning from the best, you're in the right place. So let's dive in. Darren, how's it going?
Hey, Tony. Thanks for having me on here, man.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice. I've had, you're our sixth guest on the podcast, and you're actually a recommendation from Jeff Prado, who's the ARA president. So first person I don't know personally. We talked a little bit about your story before we started recording, but I'd love for you to kind of tell a story of you, story of your company, and then we can jump into some of the questions.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so Darren Randle, Chief Operating Officer. My wife and I both run the business. She is the CEO, Corey. We got into the industry, actually. I got into the industry a little over 10 years ago, almost 11 years ago. But I've had my company. This is the 6th year that Houston Tents and Events has been around. So I started in college. I ran the largest festival that University of Houston hosts called Frontier Fiesta. I was involved in homecoming, SGA, everything that I could do to try to network. And then also, an RA and anything that anybody would pay me a stipend to, I would do it. But the biggest thing I was involved in was college athletics. I thought I wanted to be an athletic director one day. Went down that path, started out in equipment. I washed all the laundry and shined all the balls and everything for Case Keenum and all of our Houston Cougar football team for the first year, and then spent 2 or 3 years as a student assistant for recruiting and operations on Kevin Sumlin's staff. After that, I realized I didn't want my career to hinge on an 18-year-old catching a ball to let me know if I was going to live in Des Moines, Iowa. No offense to you Midwest people in Des Moines, but I didn't want that. My wife was an elementary teacher, so I thought, you know what? Well, I want to stay in Houston. What do you do if you're at a college football program that was having a lot of success at that time? Where do you go up from there? So the Houston Texans had an opportunity pop up on the business operations side with marketing and community development, and so I went over there and had some incredible people that worked there and have worked their way up the ladder. Some are still there, and got a lot of experience on the business side, not directly associated with football. Did that for a season and then used that to springboard myself into a corporate position with Comcast, where I handled all of their sports sponsorships and marketing activations, and got me involved more in grassroots marketing. I learned about corporate events on that side, and I was able to throw around, Fortune 50 money at anything in Houston, which let me make a lot of good contacts, and did that for a couple of years. They were supposed to acquire Time Warner Cable, and 4 years in, I realized what working for corporate world was like, and it wasn't for me. So I made a leap, went home, told my wife I was going to leave and go into a small business doing events, and she thought I was going to be a planner. I mean, I'd planned like I mentioned, the UH festivals before. I have operations background. And I said, no, I'm going to be the tent guy. We're going to do the tents and the rentals. And she's like, what in the world do you know about that? And I said, well, I know that I've paid multiple companies, no matter what budget I had. At UH, we used a couple of local providers. At the Texans, they used a provider or two. At Comcast, I used whoever could bring me that I thought was the nicest things. And they all had different challenges and issues. And I realized that I could probably make a living out of this at a minimum. I didn't know I would go to a small business for 4 years and find out some things I didn't want to know about. In business, not everybody runs the same lane. So after 4 years of being a smaller company here in Houston, I was led to start Houston Tents and Events, and officially January 1st, 2020. And it's been a crazy ride, man. I just kind of hold on. It's when you come from being the customer, I know that there's a lot of positives and things I've been able to learn that I want to do for everybody else as all of our customer base is in the Houston market. But man, I don't know how long you've been doing it, Tony, but tent business and the rental business is so unique.
Yeah, no, so I had a rental business that I bought off Craigslist. My wife also said, what are you doing? Do you know how to run a business? And my brother-in-law actually ran the front end, and then I bought the manufacturing. We sold the rentals right around the same time that you got started, which, by the way, January 1st, 2020 is an interesting time to have started a business because we all know it happened mid-March. So I'm sure that was, what did, not even on the question list, but like, what did you guys do 2.5 months into the business?
I was killing it for 10 weeks, man. My other company, I had probably 70 or 75% of the customers. I tripled his business in 4 years. The guy I was working for became a non-equity partner. So at that point, just make sure we got out of our agreement and was able to bring them over and start hitting the ground running immediately. Did a few things, government jobs. Twitter had their annual global conference here in Houston the second week that I was here. So I had all of East Downtown closed off and did all the rentals for it. We had rodeo cook-off. I was able to do most of my same teams. We really just picked up the ball running under a different logo that I like better. And ultimately, 10 weeks in, you're looking at the forecast. You're looking at what's going to come down. And I'm on a rodeo committee, which is big in Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. It gives more scholarships away than I think any nonprofit organization in the country. I've been on a rodeo committee since I was 22, the calf scramble committee. So little kids chasing the calf, trying to catch them to earn a scholarship, be able to get one, a certificate. So I was leaving a shift and was super pumped to go the next night as an attendee, go see Kane Brown. And, I was just thinking like, I didn't leave rodeo thinking anything was different. Well, the next morning went to a 9 a.m. meeting. At 10:30, I'm driving down the road and I start getting blown up that rodeo was canceling the rest of it because of COVID. And it was a crazy, rainy, gloomy day, and I was like, my world's about to turn upside down now. What in the hell did I just do? And so I stopped in at a Chick-fil-A. And most people in this industry, whether it was on the, Kyle and Nate's Under the Vinyl podcast or wherever, all these our industry stuff that's starting to try to share stories. I'm sure people have heard this, but I stopped at Chick-fil-A to get lunch, and I like Chick-fil-A. And I'm getting rained on. So is the high school girl that's taking my order or whatever, younger girl. Got my window rolled halfway down. I said, why in the world does this one of the busiest locations in Houston not have a canopy? Hey, is there a manager here I can talk to? I said, if you can find somebody inside that can make a decision, I can make sure that you never get rained on again. I'll build you a cover right here. So she calls in, and the actual operator for that Chick-fil-A location was there. Turns out he beat me up over the price, but I let him because I was just at that point, I started looking at my own personal bills and thinking, what bills can I take off, So I gave him a weekly rate for the month on 2 structure tents, the way that we made an L shape in one of their drive-throughs, and made him commit to 3 months. I knew 3 months in he'd keep it because I was going to put it in the middle of like June or July, 110 degrees in Houston. I was like, all right, well, maybe this can pay my mortgage and 2 vehicle notes. So now I can start just taking off bills by each, project I get, or restaurant or anything, right? And so we went down that path, and ultimately, I still have Chick-fil-A locations up. I ended up doing 29 over the course of that summer of between that spring and summer of 2020. Got calls from all over the country because I got listed on a Chick-fil-A Inc. thing out of Atlanta, a documentation that had my tent information on it.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening was I wasn't trying to get anything outside of Houston. I wasn't being greedy. I wanted to try to pass around what I could to the industry. So I've made a lot of connections within my network that I love in this business across the country now. But back then I was just going online, finding out who had the best reviews. And I'd look at the most recent reviews and I'd call that company or I'd talk to that Chick-fil-A location, tell them exactly what they needed for their location, who to call,
Yeah.
and I'll call the tent company and be like, hey, here's what y'all should, here's what I'm charging. Here's how you can funnel it through the franchise. They want to lease to own this and that. I kind of shared my tactics for it. I mean, I've heard multiple times from so many people at all of our expos and stuff, like some people still have Chick-fil-A tents up, like, that kind of springboarded it to all the other restaurants, drive-throughs.
Yeah.
So by no way, maybe I was the first, I don't know, but never record that. But I do know that it started something that helped, God's Chicken Sandwich saved Houston Tents and Events in 2020. I'm sure that it helped others too, so what a wild, crazy thing. We were doing Chick-fil-A's and then the next day getting up and going and doing a testing site. Fast forward a month later, you'd start throwing in a random like outdoor, social distance wedding. Like first year out the gate of being on my own, I was like, there can't be anything worse than this. This has got to be, this is it. You know what I mean? Like, if I don't fail for this, I don't know what makes me fail. So
yeah, that's one of the shortest pivot stories I ever heard. We spent a week and we're like, what's going to happen? And then we started thinking, and then got a lot of calls from like hospitals and centers, right? People want to put tents inside. We don't know how serious this is. And then everyone needed to be outside. And so, I mean, we were all important to keeping people outside and keeping people safe. And we did actually some Chick-fil-A's that wanted to buy tents. And there were some really interesting conversations. And we're using like Google Maps to try to figure out. And we'd call tent rental companies to help. We did some testing sites as well in the Southwest. And same thing, it was finding tent rental companies. But I think that's something unique in the industry where someone will get like the contract for Dick's Sporting Goods, right? And they get it for the whole country, and they don't want to do the whole country. And so you develop relationships and you sub-rent out and you help people out. So I think that's one of the really unique things about the tent rental industry is everyone shares, everyone works together, everyone helps each other. So it's always nice to get to like an ARA show or get on one of these podcasts. So you guys, how many locations do you have?
Just the one. So we've acquired a few businesses, but we've integrated them into our headquarters locations where we have 2 suites here in North Houston.
Okay. And how many employees?
50.
50. How'd you fund the business to start off with?
Thankfully, like I mentioned, I had a few events right out the gate as soon as I left that were able to come right over. I sub-rented from a couple of vendors at the very beginning. It was a interesting experience because I have a certain methodical way of doing things and an expectation that when you've been the customer before, you know what you want to deliver on. And if I can't do that, I don't get involved in it. So I used to use a lot more vendors than I use now, solely because somebody eventually couldn't uphold their end of the bargain and do what they say they would do in the industry, of equipment or tents or whatever. So I was able to kind of make ends meet by sub-renting for the first 2.5 months. And then probably honestly, even through April, through a month and a half of COVID or so. And then that's when I started buying more of my own things. Had a lease started that, thank God, that guy was looking over me that day, and he let me get out of a lease that I got out of April 1st, 2 weeks after COVID. So I went back to storage units for a little while, and then about 3 months. And then June, I went into a much smaller building, 4,000 square feet, with a small little office that was one whole line of the building, but was like 8 feet wide. It was crazy. It at least got me a home base to start. So we started just pouring the money back into it. I mean, even now, to grow it, this kind of trajectory, you have to keep pumping it back in, right? It becomes a monster that you got to feed a certain way. And so I do like that the future is starting to level out a little bit more. Somebody may not like that as much. I mean, even today, the market movers came out. We're on that list for a 4th consecutive year, but we keep getting bumped a little further and further down the list. Order, right? So that's how we kind of started putting the money in the business. My wife cashed out her teaching. She stopped teaching and cashed out her Texas retirement system, pretty much her teacher 401k. I cashed out my 401k. We took money out of the house that we had and just started buying tables and chairs and things that we could put in a storage unit until we worked up to tents that year. So
Yeah, love that. I mean, all in on yourself, right? I always have friends ask, they're like, "What stocks are you trading?" And I was like, all my
same,
money's all my
16
money's on me. I am all in on Tony Airbar and American Tent. So it would be fun to see pictures of people's very first locations. You mentioned like it's just, you make do with storage units, or you have an office that happens to have like a rack in the corner. That'd be kind of a fun thing to see. Any
Yeah.
unexpected costs you didn't anticipate when you first starting your tent rental business?
I mean, just how expensive everything is to run a business that has this many moving parts. Like, you think about, you have equipment and you got to get it around to spaces and you got to store it. But the kind of maintenance that goes involved with it, the way that you load things in and out. I mean, the warehouse operations was so much more than what I thought. And people that have come to our facility have seen how organized and clean it is. That's why we're an ISO 9001 certified facility.
Nice.
Knowledge. The only tent company in the state that has it, but it's because of efficiencies, right? And I'm go all in, just like you said. Like, if I'm going to do it, we're going to do it the most efficient way possible. And as you grow and you maintain that amount of equipment coming in and out and everything, it's challenging. So I'd say the warehouse operations and the costs that go into that surprise me. I mean, every insurance, every subscription you got.
I mean, your official title, COO, right?
Yeah.
So talk a little bit around a couple of tips and like operationally, like you had to say, this is key to my business and operational success. What are they?
Don't be scared or afraid to invest in things that are going to help you operationally. For us, like our tent washing and drying system and that Tico made us, we're able to wash and dry 17,000 square feet in 24 hours.
Yeah, Tico's awesome. Love Tico.
Yeah, they're up there in your neck of the woods. Be able to do that, put it on the shelf, and know when it goes out, it's going to be clean and white and right. You know what I mean? Most people look at that and they're like, "You spent what on that machine?" And they don't dive into the numbers. It's all, I'm a very analytical person. So like I dove into how much square footage is going to take to put all these pulleys in the old school way around, how much is going to go in, who's going to get attached onto it one day and get picked up in the air and potential liability, right? Like how much stuff is still going to go out that we're going to have route backs. So I started doing the numbers and I'm like, it doesn't cost me anything to get this equipment and do it this way, but it's hard to chew on at first.
Yeah. Did you guys get the dryer too, or just the washer?
Yeah. So I had the dryer built. Steve built it, and we've had it now a year and a half. It's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And so I think things like that, multiple 10 oxes, I guess my advice would be like, take the financing, take somebody else's money, and find a way to make money. If you want to do this, if this isn't we talk about it all the time. My buddy Kyle Richardson at LNA, we talk about how you got to pick and choose. Is this a lifestyle business, or is this are you in this to like profit and churn and flip it? Like you kind of have to pick and choose like what you want to do. If you say you want to make money, then you got to look at it as a long-term thing and how you're going to make it, right? But that takes investing in the business in operational ways. And so I think that that's what I would say, is to think through efficiencies and get in the numbers. Don't just let sales worry about the revenue and marketing and all that. Get in the numbers and see where you can really shave efficiencies. And I think that's what's going to make the difference in companies being around 5 years from now. It's not going to be who's doing what amount of revenue or who's got the Dick's Sporting Goods or Home Depot contract. It's going to be who is able to do as much as possible, as efficiently as possible, are the ones that are still going to see growth and still be around, because just like everything else in the world, it's only getting more expensive to do business. So you're going to find more bigger companies that private equity has already got into. And I think they'll take a few more things like that, but it's going to replace the mom and pops. It's going to replace the people who love tents and love this industry if they don't learn how to get efficiency or more efficient, because the companies have really, really smart people, and that's exactly what they're going to do.
Yeah. And ARA has really great resources for that. You can get CERP certified, right? The magazines that come out, but going to the show, learning there. I mean, even podcasts like this, right? learning from people and seeing the things that they do. Because yeah, you could have a great top line, you could $10 million business, but you could lose money because you're just not being efficient. You're not pricing things properly. You don't have a great ERP system that's sending jobs out efficiently, and you miss a couple of pipes on a job that's 4 hours away. That's
Awesome.
immediately an unprofitable job. Like, we shouldn't even have done that job because labor is expensive.
You mentioned the CERP certification. I think that where like ARA, ATA, and Matra, like where they're all going at as far as this like educational side is perfect. Like, it's something that's been missing for so long. Like, it's kind of been just a blue collar, kind of like good old boy industry that like just went by what you knew how to do or could figure out, right, from the construction or equipment side. And now it's grown to, no, we need to have skilled laborers. We need to have trainings. We need to have safety certifications, right? And the path that they're going down, that I've seen the roadmap of flooring certifications and trainings and different type of tents and driving. I mean, it's going to make the industry so much better, help the customer, but also, I mean, you're going to get people those skills. You got to be ready to pay them, and I think that our industry is finally, I would say, getting more organized, and getting more organized on the important things and sustainability areas like that. So,
yeah, I'm on the big board of the ATA, and we've started to work a lot closer with ARA and Matra. I mean, all of those shows are great things to go to. Every time I go to Matra, I bring bad weather is my problem. I always go to like the cold places, the casinos up in Connecticut or whatever. So we talked COVID, obviously, probably top of the list for this. But what was the biggest challenge you faced when getting your tent rental business off the ground besides COVID?
Biggest challenge I faced, competition. In a market like Houston, where there's been tents around forever, right? And you've got some really big players here, one really, really big player, but other companies that have been around for 40, 50, 60 years. I mean, I think I can count 5 companies that have been around for 50 plus years here in Houston. That's a lot of family. That's a lot of generational involvement, right? I think that getting into the industry was tough because they've been doing things a certain way for so long. And I've been trying to change, and I call it, I'm trying to flip the market on its head. Like, I want to do things differently. I want the expectations and demands of a customer to be differently met, because for so long it was, issues I had is people would show up whenever they wanted to pick up the tent or set up the tent. They'd bring the wrong colors. You were kind of at their mercy. And I feel like I'm trying to get to where a tent or rental company is viewed as a professional company. Like, we're not just, well, they all stink, right? Or none of them show up right. Or, you know what I mean? Like, I want to feel like we're legit. I'm trying to make tent and event rental something professional and not just something that was just all mom and pop, a small business. That it's something that when you're paying a price, if you want new trendy things brought to market, it costs money. Well, you got to be willing to grow and show up on time. You know what I mean? I think that's my biggest challenge is my market and the competitors in this market, just based on the amount of time they've been around and kind of the expectations that they've set a standard on. And I'll be honest, pricing, like, I thought that, what I was willing to pay when I was the customer at different stops, I thought that it was good enough for someone to be able to do more with. And those dollars don't go very far now post-COVID. So
yeah, certainly.
Those are my challenges. It's always the money, and then obviously the cash flow on the money side, right? Like, this industry, I don't know how people, like, again, it snows up there where you are for multiple months, right? Yeah, you can have snow loaded tents, but like, we don't have a day here where we can't go do a tent, or we're not going to do a tent, right? But you have the summer slow months, 3 months where we're slow. Everybody else is killing it around the country. Here, how do you have 3 or 4 months a year where you don't even break even? You're using your spring and fall money. So when you're in the growth phase for a company, cash flow is incredibly hard.
I mean, cash flow is not something that is ever perfectly managed, but like, how do you think about that? Because like you said, we have 4 months, 5 months where we went out one time and did a fishing tournament out on a lake, and stakes, when it's sunny out, warm up a little bit and slip out. So we had to pull tent up, and we had to figure that out quickly and get some rebar into the ground. But I've been in Austin in July and tried to play golf, and I went off at 5:30 in the morning, and by the time I finished, it was 100 degrees. So how do you manage that cash flow as efficiently as possible?
try to get into new areas of the industry. I bought a company, a Finery Event, all the assets from it about a year and a half ago, maybe. It'll be a year ago this summer, actually. So that got me into more tabletop, right? Tabletop inside venues or back homes. That doesn't stop when it's 110 degrees out. Into this February, there's a close friend of mine who I've known the whole time I've been in the industry, Mike Rape, him and his family, Kathy and Carter and Colby. I acquired them back in February and integrated them into us and all stayed on board. And that's power and generators. So we already did temporary power and had our own generators and whatnot, but it just put us more into that space. Well, you got to think we're in a Gulf region, right? You got storms all the time. Our Texas grid can't handle a 25-mile-an-hour day. Definitely can't handle freezes that we keep getting. I mean, Austin got obliterated with a hailstorm the other day, so there's needs for that temporary power. So we've been able to lean into that a little bit more in the slower months to try to create some cash flow. But ultimately, it's trying to manage your bills and spread it out across the months the best that you can. And eventually you can stop having to pump everything back into the business, which my wife would love if I can use this thing there, but find something new and shiny. Everybody that listens to this is gonna know exactly like, oh yeah, they somebody mentioned Darren just loves debt, and I'm like, love debt. It's just I use somebody else's money to try to go make money. It's part of it. If I didn't, then I would be a very small company, and I'd be sitting there twiddling my thumbs in the summer, wondering what I should be doing and want to be doing. So I determined, a couple of times in my career, I needed to go all in, and it was appropriate and calculated risk. It wasn't without risk, and you go all in. If you love this stuff, I have a huge passion for tents and rentals, so why not keep trying? So that's how I try to keep managing my cash flow.
I think it was a video on LinkedIn, and the person circled when you're a kid, when you're retired, and then everything else in the middle. And it's like, do something that makes you want to get out of bed in the morning, right? Because otherwise you're just punching a clock to try to save the money for retirement. And then you get to retirement and you're like, all right, I got 10 years to be able to travel and do stuff. Find your joy is actually one of our values at American Tent. And we want people to be happy to come to work. And so we'll move people in and out of different roles to find the right seat for them. And Be the Buffalo is actually another one, which is why I'm wearing the Buffalo shirt today. So it's the only animal that charges into the storm when it's approaching. So just kind of a nice little metaphor, if you will. But,
very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I'm all about it. That's awesome.
So we talked about a challenge, right? So any mistakes, small or large, lessons or things that you'd want to share with other people so they don't make a similar type mistake?
I think don't take things personally. Understand that there's some not good people that are customers. There's some not good people that are vendors, that are competitors. Try to keep a level head and all those sort of things and just run business, just do business. And if you do that, and I'm faith-based, so if you do that, I truly believe that everything comes around that's supposed to. I think that do good things for people, treat everybody the right way, but to try to keep it cool. And because I've gotten very frustrated and I'm very vocal generally, even in the industry and everything, but sometimes just to look at it as it's just business, and stay in your lane and just do the best you can for others, and everything else will fall in place. So encouraged by the losses, by the challenges and the struggles and the quoting somebody on something, spend a lot of time and them not even replying, right? Don't get too hung up on that, but also at the same time, celebrate your wins, but don't get too high on it. Our industry is a very cash flow, a high cash transactional business, industry. These people win a government contract to make a bunch of money. It's the end of the world, and you'll see them buying Ferraris and all kinds of stuff, and you're like, what? In new houses and boats with names, and you're like, what in the world? You don't let the wins get too high, and don't let the lows get too low. Gotta stay steady and grow your business and do it the best that you can with some integrity.
Yeah, boats with names. What name would you put on your boat if you hit it large? Let's say you million at the casino or something.
I was just talking about this the other day with my buddies, who are all thinking about getting back a group boat with all of us again to go offshore here in the Gulf. I told them that I would want it to be called change order, because I've never done change orders until this year, because I've just tried to make it work and adjust it and went about my business. And I realized, started adding up how much time was being done. And I'm thinking, and change order should be where somebody didn't do what they were supposed to do on the customer side, and you're able to cover yourself and a little bit on top. And so I'd probably call it change order, even though my change order amounts aren't enough for a boat by any means. So.
What was your craziest change order experience?
Every time that I have to try to explain to somebody that why there's a change order, well, it's because, when you called in, we already had that truck on the road. So now we've either got to turn around or bring them back. Now we got to rush and pull that load instead of going and doing the next job that we committed to. And we've got to make sure that it's clean. Oh, it wasn't clean because it came back yesterday from a job, but now you want it. We're adding it. It's the paperwork print offs. It's the constant, you have to go talk to 3 people to let them know or send 3 messages that this is now changed. And I said, all those things, just go into it. So I don't think there's just one crazy story. I think it's that in order to try to justify that, I have to dive into that every single time or our sales team does now, not necessarily me all the time, but I have to dive into that very often and explain what a change order is, because in my market, there was no such thing by anybody.
Do you put that into the contract now or other language on the website? Just you probably learn every time there's a weird one. You're like, all right, that's got to go on the list, right?
Yeah, it stinks, but your terms and conditions and cancellation policies all start getting longer, and it's part of it is being different. I mean, our whole, we have half our companies come from other companies. The other half I brought in fresh from outside the industry. Well, the half that have been in the industry have seen things a certain way at even some of the bigger players or companies in our market or in other cities. And just because that it was done that way doesn't mean it was the right way. And so we're kind of going against the grain on things, and that's tough and challenging. I mean, we have to justify a lot as to why we do what we do, why we charge what we charge. And so it's difficult to do, but change orders is one thing that a bunch of people around the country do it. A bunch of industries do it, not even tent or event rental related.
Yeah.
Why should we not be compensated for that craziness and all that run around administratively and everything,
Yeah, we used to have a lot of weddings up in Door County, which is the thumb of Wisconsin. And there's a lot of, not cliffs, but like you're higher up, and then you go down to the beach or go down to the actual house, and the people don't tell you there's 37 steps to get, like you can't drive the truck out onto the lawn, right? And so those are some big ones. Putting that into a contract, making sure you Google Earth the location and see here's the site and here's where the truck's going, to make sure you can get access to the site and put those charges in ahead of time, right?
Yeah. I mean, try to avoid it. Like just know what's going to happen and try to build it. And don't run the business like I know some in this country do, where it's like, well, let's just win the job. And then once we win the job, let's go through, well, we were only expecting 20 feet of walking. This is 30 feet of walking. We're going to add you and stick it to you because you got to have it because we're here and your event's tonight,
Yeah.
Try to build it in ahead of time for the customer experience. Nobody wants that. You and I don't want when we're ordering something from another industry, and our customers don't want that either.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about growing the business. So what are 2 or 3 of the biggest events or markets that you service most often?
Houston, obviously. I'd say since January, we started stretching out a little bit more. We learned that the other markets are building the same type of tents and products and getting better money than Houston is willing to pay for it. Maybe it's competition. I mean, there's way more companies here than Dallas, Austin, or San Antonio, but also it's just a different type of environment there. Dallas and Austin are interested in new things and are willing to pay for it, and they will pay for service and quality and that sort of thing. So I found ourselves doing more and more and across the state of Texas, and then just exploring opportunities outside when it makes sense. I always said I wasn't going to be the person that opened up another branch to say we opened up, we got 3 or 4 or 5 branches in all these places, right? It's no good if none of them are succeeding, right? If they're all just getting by. And so I love Houston. H-Town is where I'll always be. I'll never live anywhere else. But I do like to try to stretch out and go do things for substance now for me. We went and did part of the Super Bowl, a big hospitality project in New Orleans for the Super Bowl. That was awesome. We're going to Phoenix in a few weeks. So we're starting to stretch out now to where we can really show what we can do, and we're getting better and better at the logistics part. So, and for me, I would love to do more business across the country where I don't even bring anything. I just go in and manage it. My retirement goal is that I get to travel around and consult with all the different people and the generational transitions and help everybody else in the industry from the few things I know how to do, because I didn't start this thing as a tent guy. It just happened, and so I love to go around and meet with everybody, but I would, my retirement plan is to, travel with World Cup or the Olympics and do part of the operations and logistics, knowing what people like you, Tony, and I know how to do, like run that successfully, easily in your sleep, but you've been the vendor side of it. So if I could go and do that and try to, retire, that would be my plan. And so getting out and about around the country is kind of helping me go that path. And there's just so many awesome tent event rental guys, men and women across the country, that if I want to do bigger projects, there's somebody I know in that market that does a great job, right? And runs their business similar to how I do. So why don't we just team up on it versus, me trying to become this traveling, company across the country and leave the front door open in Houston for one of the competitors to walk back in the house.
I'm excited for the World Cup. Big soccer fan, but it's fun to go to those events or go to like a PGA event or something. And I'll spend an hour and my wife's like, what are you doing? And I'm like looking at the tent and looking at this like double decker, right? Who made the tent? I'm always taking pictures inside, getting ideas. I'm sure you do the same.
I got an album on my phone that all it is tent/event design ideas. And it only comes from what I see online, snapshot, or that I go around them. And we're going to San Diego in a couple weeks, and I've been blowing up a company there, trying to hit them up so I can go meet with them and go see their facility and talk to some of the guys. Like, thankfully, this industry, as I mentioned, some of the awesome people that are in it, I've been able, as I go and am able to travel around, I want to see it. Like, I want to talk to the people that have been doing this for 10 years or 2 years or 30 years. I want to try to get that knowledge from them, and you learn something different. Thankfully, a lot of people have been really open and understood, that there's a line between competitors and trying to help each other. And so that's probably what I'd say my most recent favorite thing about the industry is locally, I wasn't too fond of how the market was ran and who I was in it, but across the country, it's kind of given me second life. I think if I wouldn't have gotten involved in a bunch of the different, boards or organizations or committees and going to the expos and everything, I probably would have left this industry a few years ago. When it was really, really hard without that kind of support system. So in this kind of podcast, like I told you, you doing this is awesome. Kyle and Nate doing theirs. And then you've got one of the tent manufacturers is doing another one, Brian and them. So like, we're going to reach people, right? Like that's what I want. I want people to realize that there's a support system and that there's some really good people that are willing to help in this industry, that it's not all glitz and glamour and huge government contracts, but it's also not all just backyard parties, but it's everybody's willing to work together and to help each other. So
yeah, for sure. All right, let's hit some rapid fire fun questions. So what is one tool or piece of tent equipment you can't live without?
Flatbed box trucks. flatbed trucks. I was only around box trucks before I got on my own, and I thought it was only the huge tent companies that used them. No, man. Flatbed, big trucks, not just enclosed box, are the way to go.
Tentox is the leader in the clubhouse currently for that question. Good to get other answers too. Small item that is in the glove box of every one of your fleet vehicles.
Probably half the tent pins they tell me they can't ever find. That or a hex key. It's always there.
How many zip ties do you buy a year? Speaking of small items.
I don't want to know. I stopped. It's all under job and shop supplies in our accounting system. I don't want to know. I would imagine we've got to spend $5,000 on zip ties. It's crazy. I always tell everybody some of these like big cook-offs we do and everything. I'm like, I better hope there's not bad weather. Not because something's gonna happen to the tent, but everything in this place is held together by duct tape, Velcro, and zip ties. And I'm like, at some point in time, why don't we go after sponsors? Our ARA needs to go get sponsors in all of those materials, Yeah.
I always thought, I was like, maybe a zip tie business is what should be next for me. Yeah. Just undercut someone by a penny. And you save yourself $50 or whatever, right? Yeah. So you talked a little bit around some of the events you've done, but most memorable event or project you've been a part of?
I don't know, man. Like your mind goes to like, what's the biggest one I've done? But that's not.
Yeah.
Most memorable one. I tell you, I'm going to say it before it even comes up. There's a wedding that we're doing in a couple of weeks. for a couple that's fallen some unfortunate health circumstances and issues that we're teaming up with a few other companies and venue for. It's the first time we've done something like that where it's not just discounted and we're fully donating the entire project to them, entire wedding rentals and day and everything. I'm going to probably, if you ask me in a couple weeks, that's what I'm going to tell you, because, you know, our industry gets so stuck up on like what, you know, not realizing that these life moments are so important to people. Like you're there, it's somebody's birthday, first birthday, it's their baby shower for their last grandkid or their only grandkid parents are going to get to shower their kids with, or weddings and anniversaries, 75th birthdays, milestones. Like we get caught up in the order itself, right? And trying to pay our bills and do it and run a business. But like these moments are something that they talk about forever. What other industries are there? You know, when you buy a cup, right? You say, man, that company I bought a cup from, you know, I've got a long-term memory for it, you know, you don't.
Yeah.
And so our industry, you have a big role in somebody's life for the rest of their life. And so I think that this wedding coming up that we're going to be able to help out, Wish Upon a Wedding, a planner who coordinates it all, that's going to end up being probably my favorite so far in the 11 years I've been in business. And I'm happy that we're at a point that we can try to do something like that too.
No, that's really cool. I mean, you talked about a Super Bowl earlier. And so for you to say that that's the event, that's really cool that you guys get a chance to do that.
That's just fun. That's substance. That's me being a sports fan and involvement, right? And it looked beautiful. It was a great moneymaker, but like the memorable moments. I mean, there's a Super Bowl every year. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Who makes it back to the Super Bowl first, Packers or Texans?
Come on, dude. Texans are in it this year. We actually are. This is our first year of a partnership with the Texans finally, and so I've been chasing it for a while, and so I'm super excited about it. And you know, now they've got HTE. Now we're gonna go to the Super Bowl. So I am a Packers shareholder, by the way. Just a little.
Oh, you are. All right. Yes, I am as well. I'm a season ticket holder. So have you been to a game? I assume.
I came up there to go to them versus Titans. I have some family that's huge Titans fans a couple of years ago, and that whole place is just insane. Like it's so cool, that small little town. But I got a buddy that's a huge Packers fan, and he missed out, and I bought a share just so I can be part owner of his team. So
nice.
Yeah.
So we just had the ATA Outlook conference here, and we had it at Lambeau. It was really cool. We had a Hall of Fame event in the Hall of Fame for the Packers, which was pretty fun. So, but if you're up to Green Bay, come up for a game. I got season tickets. Everyone in my family, it's kind of like a standard, but I got on the list when I was 1 and I got off the list when I was 35, the season ticket list. So
that is just insane, dude.
Just bonkers.
Whoever did the draft there, hopefully it's some local business out of Wisconsin got some, but like that draft looked really good. I'm sure it took a village for everybody all over the city with all the pop-ups and things that happened, but they made the tent industry look good. That was a well organized and, you know, aesthetically pleasing event. So
no, I never got to. I saw whose tents they were, who manufactured, but I never found out. My guess was like in arenas or one of the big guys that do like those PGA and those types of events, Olympics.
People love tents. COVID showed people tents. Like that's what I tell everybody all the time. People just thought of it as one small thing. It's like, no, you can do a lot of things with this tents. Like, and it's just grown and grown.
So let's turn it around from most memorable to some funny moments. So what is the most unusual or surprising request you've ever received from a client, or alternatively, a bizarre thing left behind at a job site?
I'd say the most bizarre thing or crazy request that a customer would make of us is thinking that we do floral and those sort of things. And it may not seem crazy, but like who in the world does power tents and floral and all these other things? You know, I used to have to say, you know, the things that we didn't do was production and AV, floral and another category. And then eventually people started asking me, oh, so you do cooking, right? And I'm like, no, we're not a caterer either. Like, what did I lead you to believe that? And it's not a one-off. People truly think that there is companies out there. Maybe there are some other ones I don't know about that are full turnkey. So when I try not to say I'm a turnkey event provider now, event rental, because apparently that's what that means. So I'd say that's a bizarre request we get all the time that we just kind of look at like, it's weird request, but we know we just know that because there's not many tent companies that do that,
Yeah, I always used to tell customers, if you see how dirty my crew's hands are, you don't want them touching things that are white or pretty. That's
Yeah.
the general rule, or probably food as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Craziest thing left behind at a job by us or by the client? Or does it matter?
By the client. I mean, either way, but by the client, maybe. Pete McVeigh's winning. He found naked people asleep, passed out under a tent.
I don't know, man. I think we've been pretty bland down here in Southeast Texas.
Not as crazy as the folks up here in Wisconsin. It's good.
We've had horses tied up right next to where our tent was before, and so like obviously you can't just roll in and just start taking stuff down. So some of these ranch weddings and events that we do at, but I'd say that's like the extent of what it is having to work around or go into a place that had multiple nice, really, really nice sports cars and seeing our right next to it. And I'm like, we're not touching anything until these cars are out of the way,
No, but you're going to snap some pictures of your pretty tent next to the pretty cars.
Yeah.
Sure,
and then I'm going to ask, hey, can you move those cars out of the way? Because these guys like to drop a spindle without question. So,
yeah. All right. A couple non-rental questions. If you could open any other business completely unrelated to tents, what would it be?
Probably a barbecue restaurant.
Do you have a specialty?
I grew up in Memphis, so I'm a big pulled pork fan. Central Avenue there was my go-to growing up. I've been to Kansas City. Obviously, I've eaten at Joe's and Q39 and Arthur Bryant's and all those places in Kansas City, closer to you. I've eaten over there in Charleston, everywhere at Rodney Scott's. But here in Texas, brisket has grown on me. I'm neck and neck. I'm brisket and pulled pork. If I got two meat combo, I'm going with brisket and pulled pork. I like the sweet sauce of like the Carolina sauce, but I can definitely get down on Texas barbecue as well. So yeah, I'd say, and a lot of my friends are a lot of the local companies, barbecue restaurants. So
I can't get a single meat. I got to go however many number of meats they will allow me to get. I want to try all of it. Right. So like the 4 meat plate, and I will feel disgusting at the end of it, but totally worth it. Try all the sauces.
You got to go to up there in Wisconsin?
We don't have a lot of, whenever I go into a city, we were in Hilton Head and there was a place called something Mama Q's or something that was, it's super good. I think she was on a food show or something and opened it up. But that's always the go-to whenever you get to Kansas City or Texas. We're going to Memphis to meet with a customer here in a little bit, and definitely we'll get some barbecue there.
Central Avenue. That's where you got
Central Avenue.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite interview question when you have a new employee in and you're trying to hire them?
Favorite interview question. If you didn't have to work, what would you be doing? Right? If their bills were paid, but just waking up every day, what would they go do?
Yeah.
Because you can start trying to find what somebody's passion is, and not what they're being, pigeonholed into having to do, because we all have to work as adults.
Yeah. No, I like that. All right. If you had a theme song that played every time you entered a room, what would it be?
A song that's always been important to me is golly, man, there's two ways. I'm a huge Chicago Bulls fan. I've stuck with the Bulls since I was a kid. My first reaction is, Chicago Bulls song. It's what my wife and I and guests walk out to at our wedding, right?
Yeah. Is that the dun 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 dun, like the one Jordan comes out to? Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
It was hard not to be a Bulls fan. In the 90s, because you could get WGN. So I was a Bulls fan and a Braves fan because I could get TBS and WGN.
Yeah, I went Red Sox and Bulls in Memphis because we didn't have anything. We had AAA for the Cardinals later on in life. We got the Grizzlies when I was in high school. So my sport teams were all over the place. The Texans are actually the only team that I liked growing up. I started watching them when they became the expansion team. They're the only team that I followed in Tennessee that I end up now following now. All the Houston sports have grown on me, but they weren't there from when I was a kid.
We talked fast food earlier, but what is your go-to fast food option if you have a couple of minutes between a job?
Chick-fil-A. It still is. They didn't even have to give me the business for it. I love pulling up, and the operators are just like us in our industry. They're still super involved, man. Like you can pull up and I'll because I did so many locations. I can be any part of town, and if I'm trying to pop in and don't have time for a real lunch or breakfast or late night dinner, I'm picking up to take to the cruise out on a job site or something. I'll pop in and I'll see the operator or the operations manager or whomever that I know and have relationships with, because those people don't leave. They just work their way up the ladder within the location. So Chick-fil-A, I like what it's about, and it helped me in probably the toughest time of my career or life. So why not go get me a little chicken sandwich?
I bought my daughter the other day just a huge jug of Chick-fil-A sauce, and she was a happy camper. I've never seen a Chick-fil-A drive-through empty. I've never seen an In-N-Out burger drive-through empty. Those are the only two restaurants that are just like, they don't stop ever. Except for Sundays, I guess. Yeah.
I throw Whataburger in that, and you've got all three that never slow down.
Every time I come to Texas, I gain about 5 pounds of Whataburger. So I don't know if you're a big reader, but do you have a favorite book, kind of a business book or a most gifted book you give to people who are other business owners?
Yeah, there's a Kobe Bryant. He's got like a Mamba Mentality book. It's just about trying to be the best version of your own self. And it talks about sport as a business, but it's just about being a hunter. That's kind of all that it is. It's the best pursuit of yourself and not backing down and overcoming adversity and outworking the person next to you. That's kind of what I try to instill in all three of my kids. I'm at the youngest one. He doesn't understand it, but trying to get him to dunk on the little goal right now. But they all three, like I try to push that. I say, if you can just have some work ethic and motivation to overcome things, you're going to be so far ahead of the world. And our industry does that every day. Those people get up. People have been doing this for 30, 40 years and 50 years maybe, and they're still there at the front counter every day. Yeah.
Yep.
So they're just in the pursuit of a purpose and a reason. And I'd say that Kobe book would be the one I'd give somebody.
I'm going to buy you a giant billboard. And you're going to get a message out on whatever the big highway is out in Houston. What would your billboard say? And it can't be an advertisement for HD. Can't be an advertisement. You want to get a important message, inspirational message, whatever it is, out to the masses.
Houston over everyone.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah, I'd say, Houston's it's a melting pot, man. The diversity we have. I always tell everybody, I've traveled around the world so far in my life when we could, especially before kids, and people are like, where are you from? And I'd say Houston, Texas. Like, oh, I want to go to Texas. And I'm like, we'll go to Dallas or Austin or San Antonio. There's things to see. Houston's not really touristy. And they're like, but you just told me you'd never want to live anywhere else. And it's like, because it's the best place in the world to live. I didn't say it was the best place to visit and tourist. But we've overcome the crazy adversities. Harvey was a big deal, right? There's resiliency. You talk about oil and everything, how important that is to the world. And, for it to be kind of anchored here in Houston and the ups and downs that come with that, it's just, I love Houston. And and I love Texas. I love saying Texas, but I'd say it always feels like every time we're always against Houston over everyone, whether it's my college, Houston Cougars, whether it's the Texans being a new franchise trying to figure it out. And, it's, the Rockets had got back to back, but only when Jordan was out, there's just so many struggles. The Astros were the worst team in baseball for however many years, and then made their World Series run that's unheard of right now, the dynasty that they've built. Like, everything embodies what Houston is, but it's,
Yeah. So are you a big comedy fan? Do you listen to a lot of comedians?
I'm actually doing part of a stand-up with a local comedian that we partnered with, Chinadu.
Really? Okay.
We were texting last night, actually. I've got a notes on my phone that's got comedy jokes, and I've been putting it together for the last probably 4 or 5 years at the right moment. And so I finally have enough content and can transition it together that I'm going to try to and do a comedy show. Because if there's a comedy show on Netflix, I've watched it.
Nate Bargatze, most recent, he talks about the word you just said. Oil is how I say it. You guys in the South say what?
Oil.
Yeah. And he has a whole clip about it that I love. I love.
God, he's great too. What a dry, and he doesn't cuss.
Doesn't cuss. All the other comedians are like in awe of him. I've seen John Mulaney, and I got 45 minutes of him talking about being in rehab, which Bargatze just the stuff he does is great.
Authentic, man. He's an authentic comedian, and he's from Tennessee. What do you expect people born in Tennessee?
Yeah, he's Nashville or just Murfreesboro, one of the cities just right outside there.
Mount Juliet, which is
Mount Juliet.
I think it's Mount Juliet's where he's from, which is outside of Knoxville and that area.
Yeah, the show he did during COVID in a parking lot where like there's
Yeah.
helicopters going overhead. Yeah. All
Well,
right. So if you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be?
I would probably say Jackie Robinson. When you talk about like what he did and came in and what he was up against, I mean, I just told you about like the Kobe book, right? About motivation and overcoming things. Like part of that is the struggle, and I think that what he went through. I've watched that movie, that sport movie, and though I know what it is and know what happens, I've watched it so many times.
Yeah.
But being a big sports junkie like I am, I want to know like really like what he thought all the time. I want to really know like what kept him going, what kept him fighting all the time. I could have easily said a military veteran or a politician or Abraham Lincoln or anybody, but like, from a sports perspective, there wasn't a more difficult barrier to break than he did in baseball. And
Yep.
so I think that kind of applied and put us out on a different path for the whole, country. You know what I mean? All because of one player in baseball. I'd like to interview Jackie Robinson.
Nice. All right. One last question. Special talent or most interesting thing about yourself? And we've caught a lot of them. And so, I mean, you could go back to your comedy stuff, but any special talent we haven't learned about?
I can tie a really good tourniquet if you get bit by a shark like my wife did. Um, she got bit by a shark Memorial Day when we were in college. The tourniquet wouldn't have saved her life because the doctor said it was terrible, actually. But it didn't hit an artery. But I don't know. I can talk. I can be on this I can just talk. I like talking. I don't know if that's anything. I can talk in front of anybody, I guess. That's kind of it. I don't have any secret talents, man. I mean, feel more bland myself. Jeez.
I mean, you're doing a comedy show. You said you did rodeo stuff, and so I mean, there was a lot of talent scattered throughout the conversation.
I tell you what I can do. I can take in college freshman year. I had to make a 3.5 GPA in order to get in-state tuition at UH. Shattered my ankle the first year at a fraternity retreat. No alcohol or anything involved, just to throw that out there. It's team building. And I had to struggle my way back because if I didn't get a 3.5, I was going to be back in Memphis and not staying in Houston. And so I ended up taking like 21 hours in the spring because I had so many I's and incompletes from the fall, 20 hours in the spring and 18 hours in the summer, all while working multiple jobs to get a 3.5 GPA. So I think that, if I had to say that there's not something special or unique, but there's really nothing you can do if you really want something. The big complaint that people make is that there's always an excuse as to why they can't get it or why they were passed up for something or why, somebody did something and got something you didn't. Just put your head down at work,
Yeah.
So say that if I had a special Superman strength, it's just that I don't stop. I mean, I hustle. So
what's a lot of people have a hard time maybe getting over hump to do something difficult. So you wake up in the morning. What is it you tell yourself in the morning, or what is it that gets you out of bed to go do that hard shit?
The sooner I get the day going, the sooner I get a little bit closer, or at least find out if I'm going to be closer or it's something I want to do or don't want to do. Just laying there, constantly thinking about it, not taking a jump or a step or getting the day rolling doesn't change the outcome. You know what I mean? So I'd rather be in the know, knowing that you're either going to succeed or fail. At least you know.
Yep. Any other advice before we sign off here for someone starting a tent rental business?
I think just do things with integrity and be an authentic person, both to your competitors, to your clients, and have passion. Don't do it if you're not going to be passionate about what you do. There's something else to make yourself happy. There's another avenue and path. Mental awareness is a huge thing now in society, right? And our industry works a ton of hours. We're making everybody else's memorable moment and day and week and weekend incredible, but not taking care of ourselves. And so I've put my health as a priority most recently in the last few weeks. And I think that that's the best way, because otherwise this industry will keep going on after you're gone, to really focus on yourself and your family and your mental health the best that you can. So.
Yeah. I've heard someone say you can't pour into other people's cups if your cup isn't full. Right. So I think that's I like that way you frame those things. So, all right, man, I hadn't met you before. This was really great conversation. I hope to catch a drink sometime, maybe at ARA.
Sure.
if I get down to Houston or come up for a Packer game. But yeah, real enjoyed the conversation. Want to start your own tent rental business? Visit AmericanTent/tent rental and download our detailed guide on 7 steps to start your own tent rental business. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with friends. For more great content, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. I have a feeling if you follow Darren on those same places, you will be entertained as well. Want to be a guest on the podcast? Email us at marketing@americantent.com. Thanks for listening to How I Rent It. And until next time, keep things intense.